Welcome to the Danger Zone, the Terrible Infant Movies and TV podcast. I'm Will. We have Mike, as per usual.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
And Jim is back with us.
What's up?
And today we're just going to have fun. It's not going to be overly cerebral or intellectual. We're talking about, like what?
Might even burp a little bit.
We'll probably burp.
Yeah.
Let's not.
Well, should we set a goal for ourselves of not burping? Or should we allot X number of burps per... He's holding one in right now. Mike is holding one in. Okay. So what we're talking about is ensemble casts. Crazy ensemble casts. But kind of more... Like, we will mention some obvious movies in here. But the idea was to kind of find movies that when someone says crazy ensemble casts, they're not the first movies you think of. So we're not going to talk about Tarantino, really. Or, I mean, we can mention Tarantino. Wes Anderson is somebody else who always has crazy casts in his movies. Obviously, the Harry Potter movies have crazy casts. Steel Magnolias is one that comes up a lot. Lord of the Rings, X-Men.
Comic book movies don't count, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that
especially
they count
nowadays,
as
like the
Avengers.
Infinity War has like
20 people.
There's not a not marquee name in that entire credit roll.
Or like Robert Altman was known for making these huge ensemble movies. So it's like kind of more to look at movies that are not the first ones you would think of. So, and the first one on the list is one that Jim brought to our attention that I didn't even think of, even though it's a movie I've seen, which is Street Kings.
Oh, yeah.
Which is David Ayer wrote. Did he also direct it?
Yeah.
Was it his first movie as a director? No.
No. He's also in the movie, I found out.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's part of the ensemble cast.
So tell us who's in this movie, because it's insane.
So, just to name a few, but some of the heavy hitters are Keanu Reeves, Forrest Whitaker, Hugh Laurie, Chris Evans, Cedric the Entertainer, Jay Moore, Terry Crews, Naomi Harris, Common, Kenneth Choi, and of course, David Ayer.
And the game is in it.
And the game, yeah.
And Martha Higareda, who was in Altered Carbon. She's the lead in Altered Carbon.
I haven't watched it yet, no.
So that's like her first like major, I think, starring role.
Interesting.
In
America,
in the U.S.
She was pretty
She's
big
been in some, yeah.
I don't know what it was, but like what triggered it in my head. But when we were first texting about this subject matter to make an episode about it, I was like just running through the Rolodex in my head, like, you know, just like we just said, what are the not obvious movies? And for some reason, I pictured this scene where Keanu Reeves is like in his undercover cop car, you know, just like a detective sedan or whatever. And he pulls over Cedric the Entertainer, who's like a pimp who's supposed to be high on heroin, like just driving in this like swanked out Cadillac convertible with like the top down, you know, and just like thinking of Keanu Reeves, like, you know, busting the chops of Cedric the Entertainer, who's like this heroin dealer or whatever. I was like, there's a lot of people in that movie.
I forgot that Hugh Laurie was in it.
I know, right?
And Chris Evans, like, what, Captain America is in this movie?
Yeah.
But that was before he was Captain America, obviously, right?
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Yeah, because first Captain America, I think, was 2010.
But that was after House, right? So Hugh Laurie was famous.
Yes, absolutely.
And was it before or after Last King of Scotland? Was Forrest Whitaker an Oscar winner at that point?
It was after. So he was an Oscar winner.
It's crazy, yeah. So then the next one I have after that, which is one that I found after doing a little digging, which is a movie that I saw in theaters and completely forgot about, Mars Attacks. You guys remember this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I can't believe you saw it in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Isn't it? It's a Tim Burton movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was in middle school. When
Probably like my only Tim Burton movie that I like.
So Jack Nicholson, Glenn Close, Annette Bening, Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Michael J. Fox, Sarah Jessica Parker.
You had to flip the page over to read more names.
Rod Steiger, Tom Jones, the singer.
Hell yeah.
Lucas Haas, Natalie Portman, Jim Brown, Pam Grier, Jack Black, Christina Applegate. It's insane.
It's like a telethon list.
It's almost like... well, let's talk about these movies then, like the Love Actually, New Year's Eve, Valentine's Day,
Avengers: Infinity War,
Toilet Bowl.
So, I'm glad you brought these up early on because these are the kind of like ensemble cast movies, in my opinion, that don't count. Because it's like the whole point of the movie is that every single speaking role is a famous person, right, or whatever. Like they do all these segment pieces where they direct them. And so in New Year's Eve, Halle Berry and Michelle Pfeiffer are two of the like top line credits in the movie. But they could have been like opposite ends of the movie and never looked at the same script even. So movies like this, it's just like who cares about all the famous people? Because you know the movie's gonna suck, like right? Because all of them have like these like two line parts.
The whole point, the whole movie is engineered to get a huge cast of famous people. It's not like let's make a good So as a counterexample, 999 Have you guys seen that movie?
Yeah.
So 999 was a script that won the blacklist, or was like high on the blacklist at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's a thriller that takes place in Atlanta. If you haven't seen it, it's like a cops and criminals kind of thing. Corrupt cops, undercover cops, Russian mafia.
It bombed big time.
Yeah, it bombed big time. But it's the opposite, I would say, of like a Love Actually, where it was a movie that, like, it was a script that everyone in the industry really liked, and a director that people liked got attached to it, and he just cast famous people in every single role, basically.
Right.
So the cast of that movie is Chiwetel Ejiofor, I might be mispronouncing his name, Casey Affleck, Kate Winslet, Anthony Mackie, Clifton Collins Jr., Aaron Paul, Gal Gadot, Norman Reedus, Teresa Palmer, who's an Australian actor, Michael Kenneth Williams, who plays Omar on The Wire, Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, that's a...
So, but that to me is the kind of movie where you don't need those people in that movie, but you have them anyway.
Right.
Whereas, Love Actually, you're selling the whole movie on the fact that you can see
and
Hugh Grant and...
I got another one that kind of fits right into the mold with 999 is Out of the Furnace.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I forgot.
That's some of the same cast, right?
Yeah. So Mike's looking up the details of when it came out and stuff, but the cast is Christian Bale, Woody Harrelson, Casey Affleck, Zoe Saldana, Sam Shepard, Willem Dafoe, Forrest Whitaker, and Boyd Holbrook.
Came out in 2013, directed by Scott Cooper.
Scott Cooper, that's right.
Yeah, so I actually saw that movie the opening day at the Landmark, which is a theater in West LA, because Casey Affleck was doing a Q&A.
Oh, yeah?
And Danny, so we have a friend named Danny who may or may not someday be on this podcast. He lives in New York City now, works for National Geographic.
He's definitely listening, so hi, Danny.
Hi, Danny. Danny is a big Casey Affleck fan, so he really wanted to go.
Aren't we all?
And I ended up taking a picture of the two of them together. So that's my celebrity photo credit. That's Revelation, right? Isn't that company that went out of business with the redheaded guy?
Could be.
Oh, Relativity.
Relativity, yeah.
Brian
that was
Kavanaugh.
like one of their big movies, yeah.
Yeah.
So one film I want to mention that's I guess would be in between something like Valentine's Day, where you just have a lot of famous people, and like a film that just casts a lot of famous people, is Sin City. And I always remember the cast being good, but when I just went back and looked at it, the list is just insane to me. You got Bruce Willis, Elijah Wood, Mickey Rourke, Clive Owen, Brittany Murphy, Michael Madsen, Jamie King, Rutger Hauer, Josh Hartnett, Carla Gugino, Tommy Flanagan, Michael Clark Duncan, Benicio del Toro, Rosario Dawson, Jessica Alba, and Powers Booth.
I forgot like half those people are in there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's a crazy
different stories, and they do intersect somewhat, but not all of them do. So it's like we mentioned, like, some of these actors probably never were on the set together, but a lot of them probably were. But that cast is just insane, and I wonder
that is an insane
how
cast.
Many of these people are just like friends with Robert Rodriguez.
Well, I mean, that's part of his whole thing, right? Is he's friends with people, he brings them, because he makes his movies in Texas.
Yeah. That's
crazy, because
like
the Hollywood
a lot of those people are like headliners in their own movies, and they're all like in this together.
Well, so here's a movie that Jim really likes, I think, Interstellar. Well,
yeah,
and so does Christopher Nolan, is he like verging on like Tarantino territory where
I think
just
so.
like
he works with a lot of similar. Like his casts are pretty similar in a lot of his films.
Yeah, but they're all like really famous.
Yeah. But like what Will's getting at is that like when everyone in town hears that Christopher Nolan's doing a movie, like everybody wants to be one of the parties.
Like Wes Anderson is like that too, right? Like people are lining up around the block to get in. It's been like Bill Murray has 10 lines in Grand Budapest Hotel.
I don't know. I don't understand it.
I mean, he's friends with Wes Anderson.
Yeah, there's a few directors like that where like most actors are like, I don't really care what the script is. It's a Quentin Tarantino movie, I'll be in it. Or it's a Darren Aronofsky film, I'll be in it. There's a few directors like that. Christopher Nolan is definitely one of those.
So with Interstellar, it's Ellen Burstyn, Matthew McConaughey, John Lithgow, Timothy Chalamet, David Oyelowo, Anne Hathaway, Wes Bentley, Jessica Chastain, Casey Affleck, Topher Grace, and Matt Damon.
And Matthew McConaughey. Did you say him?
Yeah, I said McConaughey.
He's famous.
It's a pretty good cast.
There's so many names I just listed. You don't even remember who.
The kid from Call Me by Your Name, right?
Timothy Chalamet.
And he's like, was he McConaughey's son or something?
He's Casey Affleck at a young age.
Oh, okay.
He's the young, the teenage son.
And Matt Damon, from what I understand, is playing the guy from Good Will Hunting in the future.
He got so smart that he traveled through space on his own. Okay, so
in Inception, if we want to talk about
I was gonna go right into that since it's Nolan again. So it's got Leonardo DiCaprio, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, Tom Hardy, Ken
Watanabe,
thank you, Cillian Murphy, Tom Berenger, Marion Cotillard, Pete. I don't know how to say this guy's name.
Postlethwaite, isn't it something like that? Yeah,
Postlethwaite. He was
the guy who talks about clipping your nuts in the town.
In the movie The Town, he was the florist. In case anyone was wondering. And then Michael Caine and Lucas Haas. And Lucas
Haas is in like half of these movies.
Yeah.
Because he's Leo's cousin.
Right, he's his buddy. I didn't know he was his cousin. I knew he was like his friend.
Maybe he's his friend.
So he just goes in every Leo movie. Kind of like Rob Schneider goes in every Adam Sandler movie.
Isn't Rob Schneider married to... Is Adam Sandler married to Rob Schneider's sister or friend? Like, they somehow know each other really well. Yeah.
Who cares about either one?
You can do it!
So
speaking of great cast.
So you think about, like, in when Inception came out, it was 2010, right? And what Nolan had done up to that point was...
Batman, right?
Yeah, like, if you go all the way back, it was Memento, Insomnia, The Prestige.
Lest we forget Following.
And I actually wanted to mention...
We're talking about American movie. If we're talking about American movies, though.
Yeah.
It's Following was a British movie. And where was it? So it was The Prestige, Batman, and then the Batman movies. You know, so like and you think about it, he only did, or I guess The Prestige came in between Batman Begins and Dark Knight.
Yeah, Prestige was 2006, and I was going to bring Prestige up too because even like fairly early on in his career, like listen to this cast: Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Piper Perabo, Rebecca Hall, Scarlett Johansson, David Bowie, Andy Serkis, like.
He's a big champion of Christian Bale. Well, I mean, he's an amazing actor, so if he'll be in your movie, you might as well take him.
Yeah, I like Christian Bale quite a bit. But like even early on, Christopher Nolan was able to get.
But Tom Hardy was not Tom Hardy when Inception came out, right? Like he wasn't.
No.
Because he was built below Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
He was Tom Hardy after The Dark Knight Rises.
Bane.
Essentially.
Batman. Yeah.
I mean that's what made Tom Hardy like the household name that he is now. But he doesn't get Bane without getting Inception. But like what I was trying to get at, I guess, I was misremembering the timeline of Nolan's films, but what I was trying to get at is Inception was relatively early on in Nolan's career. It seems like, 'cause it was so long, it's almost 10 years ago now that movie came out, but like Nolan is another one of those guys that he doesn't do a movie every year like someone like Michael Bay, you know, or like every 18 months there's a new Christopher Nolan movie come out. Like he picks his projects carefully. And when they come out, they're like these sweeping, epic, huge like saga tales and like masterpieces that get nominated for like 10 Oscars and everything. And like that's what attracts everyone to that level.
What's funny is it feels like Inception came out in 2010, and it feels like that was one of his earlier films. It's not. He's only done 3 films since then, which is The Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, and Dunkirk.
When did Memento come out?
Memento came out in 2000.
So that's 10 years.
So he did Memento, Insomnia,
right
Batman Begins, The Prestige, and The Dark Knight before he did Inception. So I think...
But I feel like you usually work more at the
beginning, it's all like a moot point because we're not even talking about Nolan's filmography or whatever.
I'm a big Steven Soderbergh fan. I have Traffic here.
That's a good one.
And that was like right when that thing was becoming big where you would have 3 kind of separate stories that sort of overlap.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Benicio del Toro, Don Cheadle, Luis Guzman, Topher Grace, Albert Finney, Dennis Quaid, Clifton Collins Jr., Viola Davis, Benjamin Bratt is in it, and then also Emilio Rivera, who is the Mayan dude in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh yeah,
is in it.
Yeah,
he's in a lot of
stuff. Yeah.
He's like one of those actors where you don't know who he is until you see
his
face,
it's like
Clifton
Collins Jr.
You know Cliff Curtis?
Cliff Curtis, yeah.
He's from New Zealand.
He's a Kiwi.
And he is cast as like every ethnicity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Like Collateral Damage villain.
yeah, that guy. Yeah.
So one film I want to bring up is, and it's actually kind of, I'll bring up 2 films because they both came out in '95.
Are they going to be Soviet movies?
And have De Niro in them. The first is Casino, which actually could be a hot take, but me and Jim were talking about this earlier. And we both like Casino better than Goodfellas.
That's not a hot take. That's just like
it's just a fact.
That's just it. Like
tag.
But so Casino
is on its own level.
Casino was De Niro, Joe Pesci,
level.
Sharon Stone, James Woods, Don Rickles, Alan King, Kevin Pollak. What's interesting to me is Alan King and Don Rickles are comedians, and Casino did have a very sort of funny vibe. There's a lot of like dark humor in it. So it's actually interesting that those two were cast.
I heard
to
that
sort of bring some levity to it, even though it's really mean.
James Woods said that Casino was his second favorite movie to make after John Carpenter's Vampires.
Was it? That's believable. But
there's no way that's true. Will can't even talk because he's laughing so hard right now.
Looking at I was looking at that, and then I looked at Pacino in '95. He did Casino. He also did Heat in '95,
right?
which is crazy because those are two huge movies. So he had,
and they're both long as hell.
Yeah, he had Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Val Kilmer, and then Jon Voight, Tom Sizemore, Amy Brenneman, who's pretty well known.
Isn't
and was
Ashley
on The
Judd in that
Leftovers.
movie?
Wes Studi, Ted Levine, Natalie Portman.
She's
Judd,
the
William
daughter.
Fichtner. Yeah.
So the scene where one of my favorite movie scenes ever is when Al Pacino takes his TV back. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
He comes into the house. And it's his ex-wife and her new boyfriend is there, and Al Pacino like becomes enraged that the ex-boyfriend or the new boyfriend is watching his TV or something.
And he just beats the crap out of the TV and like he just keeps slapping it around.
So ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I read.
He's like slapping it to keep it up on the counter. Like,
oh wow! I just saw that Hank Azaria and Danny Trejo and Henry Rollins are in it. Yeah.
So I was reading an interview with someone who's in Heat in like a smaller role, and they said that Michael Mann does like a shitload of takes, and that in the movie when you see a take of Al Pacino completely losing his fucking mind, it was typically like the 100th take, and like all the previous takes he had done like kind of a more subtle or whatever thing, and it got to the point where
triple digits,
like basically had like a meltdown and would just lose his mind, and then Michael Mann would be like, "Perfect, we got it."
You imagine what would have happened if he just lost his mind like on the second take?
Yeah,
they would have finished on time. Yeah.
And on budget. Don't waste my motherfucking time.
Okay, I got a interesting.
Is this one?
Candidate?
Is this a mystery one?
It's one of them.
Okay.
So there's nothing like ensemble cast doesn't necessarily mean a large number, right?
Right.
It means that out of the cast that's in the movie, like we're talking about, even as a small cast numbers wise, if it's all famous people, that still counts, right?
Yeah. So like Buried.
Yeah. I guess. Or Jeffrey Tambor is a voice.
Yeah.
No, so what I was getting at was Zombieland.
Okay.
So Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, Bill Murray, Mike White.
I forgot they were all in that movie. Yeah.
Right, but like Mike White doesn't count because he's the Mr. Schneebly in School of Rock.
Right, but he's like a writer.
Right,
too,
but he's
right? Yeah.
like in Zombieland. He's in like one of early on when Jesse Eisenberg's going like through his rules of Zombieland, like one of the little vignettes that like exemplifies the rule. Mike White is like one of the zombie victims in that.
Oh, okay.
So he's not really like part of the
So
ensemble
it's
cast.
like Hot Fuzz, where like Kate Winslet's in it, or Kate Blanchett, but you don't see her face.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, so the main cast of that movie that like you follow throughout the plot, because like Amber Heard is in one of the early scenes, like she's room 104 or whatever, like that's her credited name.
Okay.
But it's Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin, and then Bill Murray is essentially
the
like
most of the film.
Yeah.
That's
That counts,
crazy.
right?
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
So I have one that I was thinking of that kind of fits into that mold in that it's not necessarily as big a list as some of these other movies, but like it's so top heavy that it fits. I think is LA Confidential.
Oh, yeah. I love that
Because
movie.
Kevin Spacey, Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, and then Phil you got James Cromwell, Kim Basinger, Danny DeVito, David Strathairn, I think, and then Ron Rifkin. But like those top three, because they carry so much of the plot and are at this was 97. Those are probably
Guy
three
Pearce
of the
and
top
Russell
5
Crowe were
actors
like,
at the time. Yeah.
But was that Guy Pearce's first big American movie?
It might have been
97.
Rules of Engagement was up there. So I think it was 98. Samuel L. Jackson.
Let's take
Tommy
a
Lee
look.
Jones.
That's an awesome movie.
That was
LA
really good.
Confidential.
Yeah. What about Platoon?
Mike mentioned that earlier to
Well,
me.
I guessed his special.
Yeah, so that's one of my
surprise
secret.
Okay.
So like, but the interesting thing about Platoon is like now you look back on it, and you're like, oh my god, like look at all these famous people in this movie. But like in 1985 when they were filming it, like Kevin Dillon was a nobody, Johnny Depp was a nobody, Forrest Whitaker was a nobody, Charlie Sheen was a nobody. Where are we at here? And then it had Willem Dafoe, Tom Berenger, Dale Dye, John C. McGinley. You know, so it had like some of those guys and everything. But like what constitutes the ensemble cast? Like when in retrospect,
well, I guess that's
at the time
like
they were just like the nobody actors that like you see and like just speaking roles now.
What's the well, I guess Apocalypse Now, right? With Harrison Ford was nobody when they shot that. But then it came out after Star Wars because it took so long in post-production.
Right.
But The Outsiders, which is the Coppola movie from '83.
Tom Cruise in there, right?
It has, C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, Ralph Macchio, who ended up being Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Emilio Estevez, Tom Cruise, Diane Lane is in it.
So see, that's the same kind of thing. It's like they were...
But these are people who were discovered like on this movie, basically, So I have American Gangster here, which is obvious in as much as Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe are in it. Chiwetel Ejiofor plays one of Denzel's brothers, right? Josh Brolin is the villain.
Yeah.
Idris Elba is in like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
Ted Levine, who is probably most famously remembered as Buffalo Bill.
Hell
right?
yeah.
Yeah. John Hawkes is in that movie. RZA, T.I., Common, Carla Gugino. We're just going to keep pronouncing
Isn't
her
it
name
Carla
wrong.
Gugino?
Gugino.
Ruby Dee, Cuba Gooding Jr., Armin Asante, John Ortiz, who is in Silverlining's Playbook, which is probably what he's most well known for. Yeah. And then Kevin Corrigan, who's one of these guys who's in like every movie you've ever seen, but you probably don't know his name. Yeah. So he's in True Romance, he's in The Departed, he's in like a ton of
He's in Pineapple Express.
He is, isn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, the thing that's the crazy about that movie to me is that you have, Chiwetel Ejiofor, who's now headlining movies, and Idris Elba, who is like one of the most famous actors in the world, probably, in these like little kind of like side roles. And then you have Denzel and Russell Crowe as like the...
So I have one that... It's a movie that I don't think any of us actually really like, but has a really crazy cast, and that's Crash, 2004.
Does anyone like that movie?
Someone voted for it to win an Oscar, so someone likes it, right?
It was Paul Haggis, just cast 1,000 ballots.
But I mean, it has Sandra Bullock, Don Cheadle, Tony Danza, Keith David, Loretta Devine, Matt Dillon, Jennifer Esposito, William Fichtner, Brendan Fraser.
I was gonna say.
See, like the way that movie,
Terrence Howard.
Is that like a New Year's Eve type thing?
Well, it's like almost like individual storylines. So I guess there is a difference between some of the movies we mentioned, like a Heat, where it's all one story and you have a really great cast, or a Casino,
right,
or like Inception or something, versus a film like this, where it's just a lot of kind of interconnected small stories.
It's like a weird hybrid between those two subcategories that we're talking, like a regular, quote unquote, regular movie versus like a Valentine's Day, where it's just like a series of 80 different vignettes that are like 2 minutes each. Yeah, because it does do that.
It brings
like,
a lot.
So
of them
like
together.
Brendan Fraser,
Ludacris is in that movie too.
There's so many other people that I didn't even mention.
Yeah, like it's like Brendan Fraser's character is in like what 2 or 3 scenes, out of like a 2-hour movie. Like he never shares any kind of screen time with Matt Dillon or Ryan Felipe.
It's Sandra Bullock who's in his scenes.
Yeah,
they're married, right?
Wife,
it's just the two of them.
Yeah, and it's like their scene their storyline crosses paths with Ludacris and the other guy because they rob them and like take their car, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I haven't seen that movie in a while. And then
no one has.
Terrence Howard and Thandie Newton are married.
And Matt Dillon's
and she blows him in the car. Isn't that what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, that part you remember.
And then, that's a documentary, that bit. It's found footage.
That's a good part of the movie.
So, does Boogie Nights count? Is Paul Thomas Anderson someone who's just like, it doesn't, you associate him with crazy cats, so it doesn't count?
But that was his first big movie.
Yeah.
Like Hard 8 was first.
Right.
And that, but like.
So Boogie Nights has Mark Wahlberg, Burt Reynolds, Julianne Moore, Heather Graham, Don Cheadle, Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy, John C. Reilly, Alfred Molina, Philip Baker Hall, Robert Downey Sr. is in it, Ricky Jay, the magician, and lest we forget Nina Hartley.
I think 100%.
Never forget her.
I think 100% that movie should definitely be in this convo because of exactly like these two subgenres of ensemble casts that we're talking about. Like that movie is like one primary narrative that you're following along Mark Wahlberg and all these like little characters like Don Cheadle dips in and out of that stream. You know what I mean? It's not just like, okay, like Don Cheadle's like the car salesman when Mark Wahlberg's character like buys something and then we never see him again. He's sort of throughout the entire thing. But the other like the I guess the caveat with that is that like you look at Mark Wahlberg, Don Cheadle, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Heather Graham. Those are all like little baby actors back in 1995. I mean, it came out in 96, right?
97, I think.
97, so they filmed in 96, whatever. Like you presumably like you think about the process it takes to make a movie like that and to release it.
Yeah.
Like when the actors are being cast in the roles, it's like 18 months before the release date, right? Generally speaking, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so like you're thinking 1995, 96, like what did Mark Wahlberg done to Basketball Diaries?
Yeah.
You know?
Fear, maybe? Was that before or after?
I don't know. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it was back in that weird gray area, and like Heather Graham was in that, and then
some indie movies before that, right?
Yeah.
And like Don Cheadle wasn't very famous at that time.
Philip Seymour Hoffman was like just getting started with his.
Although Nina Hartley was already a star.
Hell yeah.
And Burt Reynolds, who hated that movie.
Yeah, he fired his agent over it, and then he got nominated for an Oscar.
Leonardo DiCaprio turned it down in favor of
Titanic,
the movie with the big boat.
Yeah.
And
the
then
right
he
choice.
turned down American Psycho to do The Beach, right?
Yes.
I think. So yeah.
Can I go old school?
How old school?
60s.
Okay, what do you got?
So I'm going to hit you up with the Dirty Dozen. Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, John Cassavetes. Just right there. Donald Sutherland, probably a bunch of actors that you've all heard the names of.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have The Great
Amazing
Escape,
cast.
who has some of those.
Some of those.
Steve
And then-
McQueen, James Garner, Richard Attenborough, Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasance, James Coburn.
And I have the Magnificent Seven that has some of those.
It's like the same people. I know.
Yul Brynner, Eli Wallach, Steve McQueen, Charles Bronson, Robert Vaughn, James Coburn. So I think those guys just all got together and made a bunch of movies.
So we're going to go old here. I have a couple movies that I don't know a ton about.
Is Nosferatu
I was
one of
doing
them?
a little research. Yes. No, it's actually the first film ever made. So A Bridge Too Far. Are you guys familiar with this movie?
Yeah.
The Duke.
Okay, so Sean Connery, Anthony Hopkins, Elliot Gould, Gene Hackman, Robert Redford, Laurence Olivier, James Caan, Liv Ullmann, Fred Williams, Richard Attenborough, and then, as themselves in archival footage, Churchill, Charles de Gaulle, Hitler, Eisenhower, and Patton.
Wait, is John Wayne not in that movie? Is that not a John Wayne movie? A Bridge Too Far?
I don't think he's in that.
What the hell
let's have,
am I thinking of?
Maybe you're thinking of the Vietnam movie Green Berets? Is that what that's called?
I hope not.
This was
That's a pretty far departure.
A Bridge Too Far was 1977, so I think this is beyond when John Wayne was.
Oh man, I had that totally screwed up.
Yeah.
But he's
That is a
in.
crazy
John
cast.
Wayne was in. He's in something else that I found when I was looking at older. Well, here, so this is a really freaking weird cast. Have you heard of this movie called Long Riders? I think it's a Western. Okay, I'm gonna read the names in groups and tell
What
me
old? How old?
if you notice something about it. I think it's like late 60s, early 70s. Okay, David Carradine, Keith Carradine, Robert Carradine are the
Yep.
top 3 billed performers. Then we have James Keach and Stacy Keach.
Yeah.
Then we have Dennis Quaid and Randy Quaid.
Oh boy.
I'm not making this up. Then we have Christopher Guest and Nicholas Guest. Then we have Eddie Bunker and James Remar. So there's
It's not even in alphabetical order.
2, 3. There's 4 sets of siblings in this movie.
Why?
Why? I don't know. Why? I didn't even know Christopher Guest had a brother.
I know.
It's like so weird.
Maybe they only cast him because like we're only casting people with a brother, and he's like, I got a loser brother laying around the apartment.
He's
Just bring
not
him
an
on
actor.
set. Yeah.
It's just strange.
I guess I've never heard the film, but you know it's about the ultimate fate of the Jesse James gang.
So speaking of cowboys, 310 to Yuma.
Oh yeah, yeah. I want to talk about that one.
Okay, do it.
That's it's a really good western.
Who directed that?
James Mangold, dog.
Right, the Logan
Oh, yeah.
guy, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so 310 to Yuma, Christian Bale, Russell Crowe, Logan Lerman, Vanessa Shaw, Dallas Roberts. And those last two, Vanessa Shaw, Dallas Roberts, those are kind of like, you're like, I don't know those names, but if you see their picture, you're like, oh yeah, they're in, like everything.
Yeah.
Ben Foster, who's one of my favorites. Peter Fonda, Alan, is it Tudyk? Tiddick?
Something like that.
Alan Tiddick, Chris Browning, Kevin Durand, which are another
Chris
two.
Brown?
Huh? Browning.
Singer? Oh.
Chris Browning and Kevin Durant, which are two recognizable faces, and Luke Wilson with that
Gresham Hall
with a black teeth
Wilson,
cameo.
isn't it?
Yeah, he's in that one scene. He's got like black
I
teeth.
thought you said Chris Brown and Kevin Durant, and I was like, I don't remember either one of those people.
Durant with a D.
And I think that's like an underrated movie.
I think so
in
too.
general, yeah, it's a really fun movie. Is Ocean's 11 too obvious?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about The Thin Red Line?
I mean, it's not obvious. Like, it's not obvious right away guess, but that's another one of those like. It's Terrence Malick, and it was his first movie in what, like 30 years
or what?
Yeah. So
and they're not like besides Jim Caviezel and Adrian Brody, and Sean Penn is in a bit of it. None of them have like a significant amount of screen time. I just think Nolte has a couple scenes, but
yeah, and that other guy from
Ben Chaplin,
Look Who's Talking,
and Elias Koteas,
the guy that looks like
John
Kevin
Travolta.
Pollak, but it's not.
That's Elias Koteas.
Yeah.
He's really good in that movie.
Yeah.
I have one that at the time that it was made, none of these, or most of these people weren't big names, but huge
Thomas
names
Jane is
now.
really nice.
1991's Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah.
As Jason London, Joey Lauren Adams, Mia Jovovich, Adam Goldberg,
Adam Goldberg,
Cole Hauser. Who else? There's just a long list. Nicky Cat, Matthew McConaughey, Parker Posey, Ben Affleck.
McConaughey.
Let's see.
That's what I like about these high school girls, man. I keep getting older, they stay the same age.
So that cast.
He's still saying that. Somewhere in the world, he's still saying that.
All those actors at the time were just like.
Except now he's got a whole bottle of Wild Turkey rolled up in his sleeve instead of a pack of cigarettes.
But that's just the crazy.
Well, Richard Linklater.
You're right, dude. That's
gets
like
the crazy, like
Well, but like you think about it, like that was like the early '90s, like generation,
it's 91,
like ours was American Pie, you know, or like Can't Hardly Wait was like the couple years before us.
Yeah.
And now, like Project X, like was kind of my living vicariously back in those days.
Because I rewatched it.
That makes me feel old.
I rewatched it like a year ago, and I'm like, God damn! There's like everybody I know is in this movie.
Yeah.
What about? Hold on, I got some stuff here.
Oh boy.
Well, I have here's one. Olympus Has Fallen. Given that it's not a particularly well-regarded movie, it has Morgan Freeman, Gerard Butler, Melissa Leo, Angela Bassett, Dylan McDermott, and Aaron Eckhart. That's a pretty good cast.
And Antoine Fuqua at the helm, right?
Yeah, Antoine Fuqua directed it.
What was the other one? White House Down was the dueling movie that is about the exact same thing.
And then there's London Down.
Yeah.
No, that's a
London Has Fallen.
He made like 3 of them. Of these
White
movies.
House Down is Roland Emmerich, and it's Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx.
Right, and that was like the Friends with Benefits.
Came out at the
first.
same time as Olympus Has Fallen. Yeah.
Right. But then London Has Fallen is the what's that guy's name?
Gerard Butler.
No, the other guy.
Aaron
Frankenstein. Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
He's in that.
He's London Has Fallen. Is he in the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
It's bad when a mediocre film.
I thought it was like a new president or something.
when a mediocre film makes just enough money to like have spin-offs of it, and
I think they're doing another one.
I'm sure they are.
What is it, like Madagascar Has Fallen?
Facebook Has Fallen.
Silicon Valley is down.
It's just called Downtime. And it's Gerard Butler working furiously to get the servers back online with that guy from GoldenEye. Oh, that's Jurassic Park. What does the guy from GoldenEye say? I am invincible! Alan Cumming, the Scottish guy playing a Russian.
Yeah.
So, Contagion.
Yeah.
Steven Soderbergh movie.
I thought Steve Zalian wrote that, but he doesn't.
It turned out it was Scott Z. Burns.
Yeah. Which sounds like a pseudonym.
For Steve Zalian.
Yeah.
The Z being the Zalian.
Yeah, right?
Gwyneth Paltrow, Marion Cotillard, Matt Damon, Lawrence Fishburne, Jude Law, John Hawkes, Kate Winslet, Bryan Cranston, and Elliot Gould.
Jude Law's in that?
Jude Law. Yeah. Jude Law's also in I Heart Huckabees, which has a pretty good cast.
I've never seen it.
What? That's one of my favorite movies ever. Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
Jason
but don't
Schwartzman.
you hate love it? Like, isn't it like a bad movie?
No, it's amazing.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you know what it's about?
No.
So,
I don't know anything about it.
Jason Schwartzman is like having an existential crisis. Dustin Hoffman and Lily Tomlin play existential detectives who like investigate your existential problems. So he hires them to figure out why he's having this existential crisis. and he's like they have a buddy system where they put you with other people having an existential crisis so you can reach out to each other. And his buddy is Mark Wahlberg, who plays a firefighter, who's having like a post 9/11 mental breakdown because of the whole world's going to hell because of oil and petroleum and gas and all this stuff. It's just it's hard to describe. Jude Law is like a corporate executive who then starts to have his own mental breakdown, and Naomi Watts is in it. It's really good.
Okay.
It's really good. Seriously.
Yeah, sure sounds like it.
It's really good. It's hard to describe because it's a weird movie. Yeah, but it's because that's not the things that the physical plot of the movie is basically about Jason Schwartzman's job is like trying to protect open spaces for a nonprofit. And Jude Law works for this company that's kind of like Walmart, who's doing this thing where they're like buying a bunch of wild land, building a store on it, and then making part of it a park and pretending they're saving the world, basically.
Yeah.
So that's like the actual story. The kind of existential stuff is going on in the background.
I have a pretty crazy
Mike's
one.
like, next.
JFK.
Oh, I had that on my list too.
Yeah. I just looked it up. So I have Kevin Costner, Kevin Bacon, Tommy Lee Jones, Laurie Metcalf, Gary Oldman, Michael Rooker, Sissy Spacek, Joe Pesci, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, The
insane.
Odd Couple, Donald Sutherland, and Ed Asner, John Candy. So John Candy for some reason, but
yeah, remember he plays that lawyer.
Yeah, I know.
Who's like
it's just
chowing
like,
on shrimp, right? He's
just
like,
like-
hey, Daddy-o!
Yeah.
when you think John Candy, you don't think JFK, right?
Yeah, well, except that they were good friends when they.
Chowing on shrimp. I wonder if that was in like the action narrative in the script pages.
John Candy chows on shrimp.
Like interior, like sweaty cafe.
Ron Rifkin, Bob Gutton, John Larroquette. Man, that cast is crazy.
I have one of Jim's favorite movies that he didn't want to bring up, but Norbit, which has
Norbit.
Eddie Murphy, Thandie Newton, Terry Crews, Clifton Powell, Cuba Gooding Jr., Eddie Griffin, Cat Williams, Marlon Wayans, and Charlie Murphy.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I said Norbit because Eddie Murphy plays like 5 people.
But I just looked it up to see, and it
God.
actually has a really good cast.
Holy crap. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So the backstory on that is like when we're trying to come up with a topic for this episode. We in a text thread we were bouncing ideas for good ensemble cast movies back and forth just to get some ideas flowing. And I threw out Norbit because I genuinely thought like Eddie Murphy played like 8 of the 9 total characters in the movie.
But as it
You're
turns
thinking
out,
of the Nutty Professor, right?
he plays like
yeah.
everyone in that,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But there are a couple movies where he plays.
Multiple people.
Which Norbit is
Yeah.
one of them, right? Or I thought
haven't
it
seen
was.
Norbit.
I don't know. I haven't seen it either.
Um,
I just thought it was from that Eddie Murphy era where every movie he did was like a variation of that gimmick.
So I found my John Wayne thing that I have in here. How the West Was Won.
Okay.
John Wayne, Henry Fonda, Carl Malden, Gregory Peck, Eli Wallach, Jimmy Stewart, Debbie Reynolds, and George Peppard, who played Hannibal on the A-Team.
Wow. That's
Pretty
a good cast. Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy Stewart, John Wayne, Gregory Peck in the same movie is pretty.
Yeah.
And
is
Henry
pretty
Fonda?
nuts. Yeah,
Yeah, if you're talking like westerns, that's like as good a cast
that's
as
pretty
you're
awesome.
gonna get.
I mean, I can keep going. So, have you guys seen Lincoln?
Yeah.
I have not seen Lincoln, and I was reading the cast list for it, and there are people in there I had no idea are in that movie. So, I mean, obviously Daniel Day-Lewis.
Totally.
Sally Field is in it. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tommy Lee Jones, James Spader, Hal Holbrook, John Hawkes, Jackie Earle Haley, and then this is where it starts to get into the people who I didn't realize are in that movie. Jared Harris, Lee Pace, Walton Goggins, David Oyelowo, Lucas Haas, Dane DeHaan, Adam Driver is in that movie. I didn't know that. And do these people all have like big roles?
Obviously not.
Right, because then you'd have 50.
I mean, there's a bunch of scenes where like the movie's about, if I remember correctly, like it's Lincoln building his cabinet and like his inner circle right after he got elected, and he filled it with a bunch of his foes, right? Because he wanted like people that were going to combat him on issues, so like they could come up with like a solution that worked for all Americans, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty fucking prudent for the 1860s, you know?
Yeah.
Wish things would be more like that now. But it's like there's a bunch of scenes where like, you know, it's rooms full of these like, you know, historical juggernauts and everything. And like these actors play them, but it's not like, you know, an ensemble cast like The Office where everybody has a big part all the time. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Cannonball Run. Are you guys familiar with this movie?
No. For a second, I thought you said rollerball.
So it's Peter Fonda, Burt Reynolds, Roger Moore, Farrah Fawcett, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Terry Bradshaw, Adrienne Barbeau, who's in a bunch of John Carpenter movies.
He was married to her.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Bianca Jagger, who is related to Mick Jagger, of course. And then, finally, Jackie Chan.
What?
Like his first American movie,
really?
like 1980 or something.
That's awesome.
And that was before he was, I think that was before he was even super famous in Hong Kong.
Wow.
I mean, I can keep going. Should I keep going? I got a couple more written down here. Will you guys have any final thoughts?
So I guess we can like quickly answer why, why are these ensemble casts being formed? Is it like, do a lot of these actors know a director and want to do a favor? Do they just want to work with other talented actors?
Yeah, so I read somewhere, this is maybe not exactly on topic, but I once read this thing about how Javier Bardem is always in demand, not because he is like the box office draw, but because everyone wants to work with him because everyone respects him so much. So if you can cast him in a role in your movie, then Brad Pitt will want to be in your movie, or Kate Winslet will want to be in your movie, or whatever.
And I wonder how having other, like, you get Javier Bardem and you get Leonardo DiCaprio, I wonder...
Everyone's like,
I imagine it's a lot easier to go get other actors, too. So if Javier, if you're listening, we'd love to...
Yeah. Or I heard that George Clooney, really admires Clive Owen. And so... There's this is a real thing.
I thought you were trying to get me to bite on some other stupid inside joke.
I think Julia Roberts said that because she was in a movie with Clive Owen.
Duplicity.
Right?
Yeah. And
she was saying that I don't know if George Clooney came to visit the set or something like that, but Clive Owen, his style as an actor is that he'll just be standing there talking to you, smoking a cigarette, being totally normal. And then it'll be time to do the scene, and he just conjures this ability from seemingly out of thin air to just be on instantly.
That's awesome. I would love to see that.
Yeah, and so apparently George Clooney saw that and was just because he has a process of how to get ready and and so
and a lot of actors do.
But there must be actors who just want to see in person. There was someone else who I was reading that about, a young actor who was in a movie with Dustin Hoffman, and it was Sleepers. It was Billy Crudup. He was in Sleepers, right?
I love Billy Crudup. I think he's
an
way
amazing
underrated.
actor.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. But he was talking about, he was sitting next to Dustin Hoffman, and while they were getting ready to shoot, and Dustin Hoffman was just chewing gum. And was Robert De Niro in that movie?
Yeah.
And they were making little crude jokes to one another, and then as soon as it was time to shoot, they became these forces of nature. And he was just talking about how being in the presence of that, which is why I imagine that there are people who everyone wants to be around.
Yeah.
And if you put them in your movie, then other people will gravitate towards that project.
Yeah. I imagine there's a lot of truth to that too.
And then I don't know, maybe they put big budgets into these movies, so they're paying people well. That might be another reason.
Could be.
But what's your favorite? Does anyone have a favorite ensemble cast?
I really like Casino's cast, especially because I think right around 95, these guys were still all at the top of their game. De Niro was one of my favorite actors. Pesci, just that duo, because they were, Raging Bull together, Casino together, Goodfellas together. This was their third or fourth film together. They were so comfortable with each other and working with each other that it just clicked, and everything about that movie was awesome. So for me, I would say Casino. For me,
it's from a director that we didn't even bat an eye to, which is Guy Ritchie. Which he's another one that
Well, especially those first two movies.
Yeah. But it's another one. I don't know what it is about this movie. I just love it so much. I love how it was cast and every actor in their specific role. There's nobody else I can imagine playing that. It's Rock and Roll. His movie that came out in 2008.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's got
Idris Elba's in that, isn't it?
Yeah, Gerard Butler, Tom Hardy, Mark Strong, Tom Wilkinson, Thandie Newton, Jeremy Piven, Ludacris is in it. Toby Kebbell,
is that the movie where they're being chased by those two Russian?
Yeah.
So that's the movie I was telling you about. That one of those guys is in real life a furry.
Mike, for crying out loud! I'm in the middle of talking about my favorite ensemble.
I know, and I'm telling you, one of your favorite ensemble actors is a furry.
For Christ's sake!
How does he know that?
You were chomping at the bit in order to interrupt us with that.
When you said when you said Guy Pearce and you said rock and roll, I got really excited.
So
I got really excited.
That like in this moment in my life, like that is my favorite like combination of actors and like just how they're interwoven together, because it's some of them are like they don't share any scenes together, you know, but it's all part of the same like slipstream that it's such an energetic movie, and it's really well done.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm like really indecisive and I'm having a panic attack right now. Boogie Nights is probably my favorite of the movies that we've talked about. But if I'm thinking about the way that you're putting it in terms of you can't imagine anyone else in those roles, the first thing that comes to my mind, which is again not a movie we talked about, but Out of Sight, which has
I've never seen it.
George Clooney, Jennifer Lopez, Don Cheadle, Ving Rhames, Luis Guzman is in it, Michael Keaton is in it, Dennis Farina is in it.
It's pretty good.
And it's just like, and when I think of Jennifer Lopez, I think so many people think of Jennifer Lopez from her pop star career onward. Mm-hmm. But the first thing I saw her in was Out of Sight. And that was before she was a huge pop star. And I thought of her as like a really good actor. And then she became who we know as Jennifer Lopez. But that's just, I just love that movie too. And I just think it's
that's Soderbergh, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was his, one of his, that was like right as he was, because you know he made Sex, Lies, and Videotape when he was like 24,
right? And
then he made a string of like bombs, basically that were like no budget indie type movies.
Yeah.
And then the studio system was kind of like, come hang out with us. And then he did Out of Sight, and then right after from that he went into like Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, Ocean's 11, all those movies. Yeah. So there you go, Ensemble Cast. If you're on a platform where you can comment, I mean, where are we putting this? YouTube, SoundCloud. Let us know what you think, what your favorites are. Maybe we could do another episode. I mean, there's so many.
Maybe we missed some that you're.
I still have a couple in my notebook from the 30s, from the 50s, like those types of movies. And then obviously we didn't do anything foreign, so no Seven Samurai. Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks, everyone.
Danger Zone. Yep. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.